Hello, everyone, and welcome to March and National Nutrition Month. Because of this great celebration, we have Stacy Eilers here, who is a registered dietitian as well as a certified diabetes care and education specialist from our Diabetes Education Center. So I will let her share a little bit more about what she's cooking today, which is going to be full of color. I would love to introduce myself to you as well. My name is Carrie Stewart. Some of you have seen me on here before, and I'm excited to announce that I will now be transitioning to a new position called the Culinary Medicine Program Coordinator. So be ready to see a lot more food as medicine coming at you. And with that being said, I am going to help Stacy chop and scoop and taste test, most importantly. So thank you for joining us this afternoon. Feel free to type any questions in the chat and please take it away.
Thank you, Carrie.
You're welcome.
So, welcome everybody. This is National Nutrition Month. Woohoo! So, each year, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics chooses a different topic to focus on for National Nutrition Month. And this year is Foods Connects Us. So, food does connect us in a lot of ways. It is our culture, it is our social, it is our celebrations, it's our community. So, one of the ways that I chose to honor National Nutrition Month is to choose recipes that are seasonal. So, we're going to do some spring recipes today. And I'm going to use foods that we could buy locally. You could go and get to your local farmer's stand, your farmer's market, in your grocery store where you see that South Carolina grown. So, these are going to be foods that are typically going to be available around this time of year. So we're doing a lemon pepper pasta and asparagus with a dark chocolate mousse that we're going to put some fresh seasonal strawberries on. So I'm going to get our pasta going first. And the pasta I chose is the Barilla red lentil.
I can zoom in for you. All right. Down a little further. There we go. Down a little more. There we go. Perfect.
All right. So the reason I chose this one is as a diabetes educator, pasta is a problem for a lot of people with diabetes. And I hear lots of gripes. It raises my blood sugar. So the red lentil one seems to work a bit better for a lot of people. It's a little bit higher protein. It's very high fiber. So this can be a great choice if you do have diabetes or you're just trying to kind of manage like pre-diabetes or something like that. So it's definitely a great option. Make sure my burner's getting hot. Yep. All right, so we're going to get that water going. And while we do that, we're going to prep some of our vegetables. So we've got a pound of asparagus, and we've already pre-washed this. I leave the bottom rubber band on a lot just because it's easier to get a hold of a big chunk of it and cut it a little bit quicker that way.
And watch what you're doing.
All right. And you want to make them into about 1-inch sections. Nothing too big, nothing too small. Trying to run away on me. And then when I get down toward the bottom, I'll get that rubber band down to the very, very end. Typically, when you pick asparagus, you want to look for as skinny as you can. The bigger they get, the more kind of chewy or woody they become. And we don't necessarily want to keep all the way down to the end because the farther down you get toward the bottom, the more woody it becomes also. So usually around here, kind of stop and toss this just because they get a bit woody at that point. We're going to go ahead and put this in our big pot. So I've got a big frying pan here that we're going to add this to. One of my asparagus has run away.
I like the idea of making them bite size already because then they'll cook a little quicker and
they do. And they're much easier to eat that way too.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
So we got that in there. And then we're going to add the red pepper next. So we've got a red bell pepper. And with these, I like you can use a green pepper if you want to, but I really like the red. Sometimes I'll do orange if the red ones aren't calling to me. But the more color we have, the more beneficial our foods are. We know that different colors have different health benefits. There's things called antioxidants and flavonoids, and each color comes with a different set. So the more colors we get, the more variety of those we get, and that's good for our bodies. Those help fight cancer, inflammation, things like that we don't necessarily want. The other nice thing too, things like asparagus and red peppers are diabetes friendly. So these are foods that we can actually eat large quantities of when we have diabetes typically and do really well with blood sugar. So I often encourage a lot of people that have diabetes to eat lots of these non-starchy vegetables because that fiber in them is your friend.
Mm. I have to give Erica, your colleague, a shout out because she taught me BFF, which is best friend fiber.
Yes, I love that statement. Yeah, the first time I heard her say that when she was teaching a class, it made me chuckle, but I was like,
Yeah,
she's absolutely right.
I know.
Fiber is definitely a really wonderful thing for us. Um, we as Americans, we tend to not get enough, and vegetables is a really fun way to get that extra fiber. I saw a very interesting thing. There's a group of hunter-gatherers that still exist in New Zealand,
Mm,
and they looked at their diet. Most Americans don't even eat 25 to 30 grams of fiber a day. That group of people was eating 100 plus grams a day. So they get way more fiber than we do.
yeah,
And we know that they're a lot healthier. They don't have heart disease for the most part. They don't have blood pressure problems. They don't
yeah,
have as much diabetes. So that tells me that we need to be eating more fiber.
yeah.
So we're going to go ahead and just make these into pretty good sized chunks. I like my
Okay.
peppers a little chunkier. Some people like them a little bit smaller, but I go for bite-sized pieces typically with that. We're going to set that over there for a minute. And then I'm also going to add it calls for fresh ground pepper. I usually use just the box pepper and measure out my half teaspoon when I do it. I'm just going to add that to the pot. And then we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. So I'm adding a teaspoon. Now, if you are following a whole food plant-based diet where you don't want the extra oils, you can always saute in water as well. I usually throw a little bit of the olive oil in just because I like the flavor. It just gives it a little extra. And there is some health benefits to olive oil as well. So the next thing we're going to add is lemon peel, otherwise known as lemon zest. So you basically get your lemon and we're going to take the rind off of it. A couple different ways to do that. I have one of these nifty little tools for zesting. So you can use one of those if you have one, or if you have what they call a microplane. These work really well for doing that too. If you have none of the above and you just got a basic grater, you can use that as well.
I love that.
So with the grater, I usually use not the very smallest, but the next size because that seems to
Okay.
work pretty good. I usually like to use my microplane just because I feel like it's a little bit easier to hold.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, you're going to take your lemon and you're just going to scrape it down across this. You can see there's little bits coming off. So we're just trying to get the peel to come off. So you can do it that way, or if you like to use the grater, just go ahead and just make sure you don't get your fingers.
Yeah. No, all these devices are so sharp, huh?
Yeah, I've accidentally added a little skin before, so I try
It
not
happens
to.
to the best of us.
It does. So I always tell people when you're in the kitchen though, just be careful. So, and you can see like part of the rind starting to disappear off this. And I usually try to keep it mostly to the yellow part. I don't usually try to get too part into the white because it gets a little more bitter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to use the zester, this came from Pampered Chef years ago, by the way, if you're wondering where I got it. So you literally just scrape it across and it'll come out in like little stripes. So if you like the little bit bigger stripes, the zester does give you a little bit bigger pieces of the lemon peel. But the reality is
Mm.
you're still going to get the flavor. And the reason we do this is we want the oils. So the lemon oil is hiding in the peel. And that gives it really good, strong lemon flavor. Now, if you don't have a lemon in the house and you're in a pickle, that's okay. What I usually do with this recipe, if I realize I have forgotten to buy the lemon, because it happens,
Mm. Yes.
I will actually just add a bit of extra lemon juice. So
Okay.
we still get that lemon flavor, but it's not the end of the world. That's one of the things I love about most cooking. If you're a baker, you know, you got to stick pretty tightly to that recipe. But with cooking, we can get a little wild if we want to.
Mhm.
We don't necessarily have to do exactly what that recipe says. We can doctor it, change it, add different things. So that's the fun part about some of these recipes too, is, we can fiddle a little because I know I've forgotten to put stuff on the grocery list and other things have gone into things before. So get most of the lemon peel off. You can kind of do however much you want. And then literally we're just going to take these grinds and put them into the pan.
Okay, so you did the whole lemon basically.
I did. I did the
One,
whole
okay.
lemon. Yep. And I'm just going to add that. And it looks like my water is beginning to boil. So I'm adding about half of this box. So it calls for about 4 ounces of pasta, which is half the box. And lemon peels will make your hands very slippery. So I always wash mine after I get done with that.
But smells so good. I
It
can
does.
smell the lemon all the way back here, which is amazing.
Wait till it starts cooking.
Ah,
So, all right, there's about half my box. So throw that in there. We'll let that start cooking.
now how many people does this recipe serve?
It does usually about 4 servings.
Okay.
If you're going for a light meal, you might get 6 out of it, but usually I get about 4-ish. If you're going for a bigger serving, you might get two.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like that's good because I know sometimes the bean-based pastas can cost a little bit more and they're
mhm,
a smaller, you're not getting that full pound, you're not getting that 16 ounces. But
yep,
if you're only using 4 ounces and half of the box, you're
exactly.
spreading it out and it's so much more filling.
Yeah,
It's a lot
and
cheaper than meat.
realistically, like even I haven't even gotten the pasta in this pan yet, and I already got a big old pan full of food. So that's the other thing I love too, is this recipe does take a lot of space in that pan up. So I'm gonna cut this in half. I'm gonna save this aside later for another purpose. So, and our pasta is doing its thing. So at this point, we're just gonna basically take this pan full of our pepper and our asparagus, and we're gonna saute it. So I'm going to try to use this littler burner back here. We'll see if it works with this bigger pan. Oh, I want this one. Okay. Oh, like between the
They're
two?
not yet. Like
Okay.
it's pretty.
Ah, there we go. That's a good plan. Because yeah, this doesn't have quite a big enough burner for this pot because it's a little bit large. So yeah, that should be good. Excellent. And then you just kind of periodically stir things around, make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. And I will often use the same spoon for stirring my peppers and asparagus along with the pasta because I figure all that flavor is going to end up on the pasta eventually anyway. I don't know about you, but I
That's
like
right.
less dishes.
Yes. Less dishes.
That is always a good thing.
Team less dishes, but maximum cooking.
Yep. So if you're one of those that are not really sure about asparagus, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know, or it makes my pee smell bad. I hear that one
Hmm.
a lot. That's okay. It's not a bad thing if it comes out, smell a little different. Um,
I feel like that's how you know that it's working.
exactly.
And that's a very fun dinner party conversation because it's apparently a genetic trait. So there
Yep.
are people in this world who it doesn't happen to, but I think you'll find that more
Yep.
often than not.
That is the
You're in
more
good
common
company.
denominator. Yep. So, and just of note too, this recipe says penne, but
Mm.
I picked up a rotini. When I was in the grocery store, they didn't have the red lentil penne on the shelf for whatever reason, so I just grabbed a rotini. That's the nice thing about this recipe too. You can use a penne, you could use a rotini, a bow tie, so you can mix it up. Or if you got an elbow, you can throw an elbow in there. So this recipe is not really picky about the type of pasta that you're using.
Do you have a preference? I know there's a lot more bean-based pastas out there now than there
Mhm.
used to be. Do you have a preference in soybean versus lentil versus chickpea?
I'm a big fan mainly of the red lentil because it's very neutral in flavor.
Good point.
So
Yeah.
it doesn't add a lot of extra flavor. Now, that being said, there are some great bean pastas out there. Like, I had to laugh. My sister bought the black bean pasta at Trader Joe's
Mm.
and she made a Southwest dish with it, and it was fabulous. Well, she went to go buy the pasta again, and the guy at the cashier was like, oh, that stuff is nasty. And my sister's like, well, what did you do with it? Just out of curiosity, because I
Yeah.
really liked it. And he'd put spaghetti sauce over it.
Okay.
And so she was like, oh no, try something Southwest with it. It's really
Yeah.
good in that because it had a very distinct bean flavor.
Okay. Okay.
So some of the pastas sometimes you might have to want it for a certain dish, like a
Mhm.
Southwest, you might like the black bean. If you're doing something where a chickpea pasta, the chickpea flavor would be good in it, then you want it. But if it's not something you're going to want chickpea flavor, you're probably going to be like, nope, nope, this is not working for me. So, and I do find some of the bean pastas taste more beany than others.
Yeah, I feel like I've noticed that a little bit too, but I don't, and I do think they've come a long way. So if you
Hmm.
tried them when they first came out, try them again. Maybe
Yep,
try a different bean because I feel like the manufacturers have really done a good job of trying to do that more. I
absolutely.
do have another question.
Yeah.
Um, how do you feel this reheats? Because that was one of the things
Mm.
that I noticed with one of the earlier chickpea versions. I felt like it did not reheat in the microwave at work the next day very well,
Yep.
but I do think that has improved a lot.
Hmm.
So it seemed better fresh, but
Yeah. Yeah, the red lentil works really good. And then Banza chickpea.
okay.
Those both seem to have a good texture later down the road. So those ones I've found kind of work better.
Okay.
Um,
That's a good tip.
and I know that like for the gluten free, some of those, like the rice and corn pastas, if you have to be gluten free, they just don't
Oh,
reheat well.
yeah.
That was my other kind of gripe about some of those that are made out of like quinoa or rice.
Hmm.
They're great the first time around, but they don't hold up well if you want leftovers. So
Yeah.
that's another advantage to like the lentil and chickpea ones is they do have better reheat. So we're just gonna let this little guy do its thing. And honestly, with this recipe, we're past the hardest part. Chopping up everything's the part that takes the longest. So we're just getting that pasta going. And we've got our peppers and our asparagus sizzling. The way I usually tell when the asparagus is done is I literally take whatever spoon I'm using and I just kind of stab them
Mm.
because once they start to cook, they'll get soft and they'll give a little bit. So if you don't want to throw some hot asparagus in your mouth, that's another way to kind of have a good idea if it's actually done. So, and you could probably add on to this too. It just calls for the pepper and the asparagus, but you could easily throw other vegetables in there, like if you had a zucchini or squash or
Mm.
something that you wanted to incorporate instead, or you wanted to just have something different. Some people aren't fans of peppers, for example, and they might want something else hiding in there. So there's definitely options.
I, for one, am enjoying the color.
Yeah, it's funny because we don't think about it, but we eat with our eyes
Yeah.
realistically. Like if you think about most restaurants, they try to make your food look pretty a lot of times because we know if it looks pretty, we're more likely to eat it.
And why
So,
can't we make pretty food at home? We can.
absolutely. And
It smells so good. I'm gonna come check it out. If anyone has any questions for Stacy, please feel free to ask. Oh, they've already almost doubled in size, the
yeah,
pasta noodles. I feel like, yeah.
yeah, they cook pretty quick.
Nice.
So they're not any
Ooh,
worse than doing just a regular old pasta. So
yum.
definitely gives us some good flavors.
So the lemon zest is in here kind of heating up with everything else.
It
Okay.
is. Yep. So it's already starting to impart that lemon flavor.
Yeah, look at that.
And then we're going to actually add, that's what the lemon's sitting aside for, is to add lemon juice. So we're going to add that and some extra pepper. So this is going to be super lemon peppery.
Yeah.
The other thing I like about doing it this way too is if you buy over the counter lemon pepper, like in the little bottles, a lot of those actually have salt added. So if you're trying to limit your salt intake, that's not helpful.
That is such a good point.
So this way you get that really yummy lemon pepper flavor and you're not getting any of the salt. And realistically, you could do this on anything you wanted lemon pepper on. You could use it on, say, salmon, or if there's other vegetables that you like the lemon pepper flavor on. So there's lots of ways you can incorporate that type of seasoning in other foods too. And I think we're getting pretty close on the pasta here. Give it another second, let it finish cooking. Our asparagus is looking pretty good. Yeah, starting to get a little bit of give, so that's getting close. And I usually use a pretty big pan. You might have noticed that the pan I'm using for this is pretty large. Once we start adding things, I'm messy in the kitchen. So I don't want to be flinging things all over the counter and have to clean that up. So the bigger pan makes it easier to stir stuff.
Yes, it does.
All right. I'm going to grab a fork just to make sure the pasta's done before I take that out. So you can kind of see we got our little rotinis going on. Yep, we're pretty good. Okay. There's one more time. Turn off my burner for that. Oop, nope, I'm going the wrong direction. There we go. So go ahead and you just rinse your pasta like you normally would. Throw it in a strainer. Put some cold water over it. Even though I'm about to put this back into the pan and heat it up again, it is good to rinse it with some cold water just because that helps stop the cooking process so it won't get too mushy on you.
Okay.
Let that strain for a minute. All right. So this is coming along really well. These burners down just a little bit. All right. Yeah, we're looking pretty good here. All right. So now that we've got this cooking, we're going to stir in lemon juice and beans. So I've got our pre-rinsed navy beans. So I just bought a can of no salt added navy beans because I tried to limit the salt too. High blood pressure runs in my family, so I'm trying to avoid such things. So I just gave it a good rinse. We sat it aside. So I'm literally just going to throw that into the pan and add that on. And then the lemons, you can just squeeze them by hand if you want, or sometimes we got a juicer. So you just put the lemon in the juicer. I might need some help with this one.
Oh, sure.
This is not like the one I have at home.
I'm in.
So I'm assuming that goes down.
Oh, do you have one that you
yeah,
twist
I got a
that?
twist kind.
Yeah, you did it exactly right. Yep.
So
And I think those ones are kind of easier than the twists, personally, but
yeah, it definitely is. It would take up less space in my kitchen too.
yeah.
Yeah, that was super easy.
And then,
All
yep,
right.
exactly. Just spoon it out and dump it.
Oh,
And I feel
nice.
like I'm noticing how easy it is for you to squeeze it, which is making me feel like you zesting it almost made it softer and easier to squeeze.
It
So I guess that
does.
depends on what juicer you would want, might depend on if you have arthritis or other things like that too. That could affect
Absolutely.
it.
And I did notice the seeds ended up in the rind with this.
Yeah.
It's fabulous.
Kinda
So now we added our peppers, or sorry, not our pepper, our lemon juice and our beans. We're gonna get those warm. So at this point, it's just about heating it up for the most part.
So beautiful. So we've got red, we've got yellow from our lemon. We've
Mhm.
got green
Yep.
asparagus. We've got white from our beans.
Yep.
We've got black, which we don't normally think of black foods necessarily as being anti-inflammatory or having antioxidants, but black pepper certainly does. And there are some great phytochemicals in there that reduce inflammation.
And we're going to
And
add our pasta
add
in
your pasta. This looks so good.
to get
All
that
right, I'm
pasta mixed
excited.
in. And then just to top it off, once it gets warm, I'm going to throw a little extra pepper in.
Mm.
So that way we got plenty of lemon and pepper both. So I just have a basic pepper mill. Let's go ahead and throw some pepper on it. And you can add as little or as much as pepper as you like. I know some people are not pepper fans. They might use a little less. I kind of like pepper, so I throw a little more in there.
Yeah.
All right. So it's all done.
So it's really just the sauce is really just olive oil, lemon juice, and lemon zest, and pepper.
That's it. That's all you got to throw in it.
Wow.
So you don't have to have a crazy spice cabinet going on. And yeah, so
Beautiful.
this is our pan.
Perfect. Look how pretty. Can't wait to try it.
Awesome. All right. So we're going to set that aside. So we are also making dessert today.
Yes, we are.
So I'm
I'll
going to
help you
get
come clean up your
our
station
mess
a
out
bit.
of the way.
Yeah.
We're going to switch gears.
These. If you want to grab your goodies,
Yep.
say, I can help you do that too.
All right.
This over.
So we are making some dark
One.
chocolate mousse.
Okay.
So the thing I love about this is it's also diabetes friendly. So a lot of times my patients are like, desserts, they blow my blood sugar up, not okay. Well, the thing is we can have dessert. We just have to be mindful about how we're doing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to melt a bit of chocolate and coconut oil together. Now, I don't own a double boiler. Ideally, when we heat chocolate, we should use a double boiler. It helps keep it from getting scorched. It cooks a little bit safer that way. It gives it a better texture. So I cheat. I have a saucepan and a glass bowl. You put a bit of water in the saucepan.
This I want to watch. I'm going to zoom in for everyone.
You stick the pan on. So my big challenge is always making sure I don't have too much water in the pan. So you put enough water in, and then you just sit this on top. And the water shouldn't actually be touching the bottom of the bowl. So the bowl, what we're going to do is we're going to heat this up, and that steam from the boiling water is going to help melt this without causing it to get too thick or
Say that again.
scorch and burn
The
a little
water
bit.
should not be touching the bottom of your bowl.
It should not.
Okay.
So that's where I always have to kind of test a couple
Yeah.
times. Sometimes I put a little too much in. So we need 4.7 ounces of chocolate. So I got a 4-ounce bar, so I'm going to start with that. And I have 2 tablespoons of coconut oil in here. We're just going to break these up and stick it in there. Oop. Break that down a little bit more.
And what kind of chocolate are you using?
I actually get the 100% cacao.
I might need to try a bite of that. I don't know if I've ever had 100% cacao.
By itself, it is pretty bitey. It's an acquired taste. So I always tell people when you're starting to learn to eat dark chocolate, start slow. Start incorporating maybe start with like a 70% or 60% and then move up as you go. So I do have a food scale to get my other 0.7 ounces. So I'm going to wake that guy up. I'm going to go over to ounces here. Yep, a little over.
It's okay. I'll eat whatever leftovers.
There we go. So, yep, there we go. So we got our 0.7. Throw that in there. And then we're just going to put this on top and let that water start to boil. And that will melt the chocolate and mix the coconut oil. I don't know how to call it cocoa butter.
I'm sure that's in there somewhere too.
It probably is. All right. So we're going to let that just go ahead and heat up. While we're doing that, we're going to put the other ingredients into the blender. So we got a big blender here. Any blender will do. I use our regular blender at home and it works perfectly fine. So we are adding, this is going to sound really gross. One of my coworkers was like, I am not trying that when I brought it to the office one day. But we're actually going to add silken tofu. Most people are like, what the heck is that? So tofu actually comes in different textures. So if you go to a restaurant and you get chunky tofu in little chunks, it's probably going to be an extra firm or firm type of tofu. A soft or silken tofu has more of like a yogurt consistency. Tofu always comes packed in water typically, so you're going to drain that water off. I just pour it out of the container that way. And then we take our big old chunk and toss it in.
I'm noticing that only cost you $1.49.
It was. So it was a manager's.
So that's affordable.
It was a manager's special. It happened to be today was the last day we could use it. So yeah, I got it for $1.49.
Chocolate mousse it is.
Yeah. I was like, this is great. I was like, yay, we're gonna save money while we do this too.
I can taste like the fiber in this chocolate.
Did you try it?
Yep, 2 grams of fiber in 1 square of it, which is, I mean, 1 square of this is hardly anything. So when you're getting just cacao, that's really what you're getting. But so many great antioxidants. So again, here's our dark, almost like black antioxidants going on here. One question someone did have already is why coconut oil? And is there another oil we could use in this?
It's for the texture. So coconut oil, when it gets cool, kind of congeals and gives it a little bit thicker texture. Other oils, once you put them in the fridge, still stay liquid for the most part.
Yeah.
So that's why. If you have a coconut allergy, if that's why you're asking, a palm oil, if you could get a hold of it, would give it a similar texture too. So most of the time I see palm oil usually added as an ingredient in a food. I don't usually see it on the shelf, but palm oil would probably work pretty well as well.
Okay.
If you're okay with not being completely plant-based, you could put a bit of butter in instead. That would give you that similar texture. You would just be able to taste the butter a little bit. So
we've actually done avocado mousse, chocolate mousse instead.
Yeah.
And so the avocado, I think
that might
it
work
doesn't
as
have
well.
tofu, but it does have the avocado.
Yep.
And maple syrup, and then a little the cocoa powder as well. And so maybe it's not exactly the recipe that you would use if you're needing to avoid coconut oil, but it's, remember, this is just a little bit in how many servings, Stacy?
I usually get 8 out of it.
Right.
Because I don't usually eat very much at a time, just because it is really rich. And so you don't feel like you need a lot, which is nice too.
You've got the filling elements of that real chocolate and the tofu coming together. I'm excited to try this version as well.
It's pretty awesome. We're going to add some brown sugar. So I get the darkest brown sugar I can usually find. So I get this question a lot. They're like, oh, is brown sugar better? Well, technically it is slightly better, but it's still basically sugar. So we don't want to be overloading on it either, which is why this recipe, it has some, but not a ton. So trying to get that packed in there, but not over full. There we go. So I just fill it up to the top and then add it in. Our brown sugar. Then it calls for 2 teaspoons plus 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. So we're going to add those. So that makes it extra chocolatey. Give my cocoa a stir over here. So once this stuff gets boiling, it'll melt pretty quickly. Then we're going to add some vanilla. So I got 3 tablespoons of vanilla. If you're feeling adventurous, vanilla can be replaced. Maybe you would like a mint chocolate.
Ooh.
So you could throw some mint extract, or you could add some almond extract, maybe if you want like an almond flavor to it. So you can replace that extract with other things. I also like raspberry chocolate. So I have a bottle of raspberry balsamic vinegar at home that I will add to things like this or replace my vanilla in brownies. I do black bean brownies with it. So it gives it just kind of a hint of raspberry to it. So this is a recipe you can definitely play with that part of it and have some fun. So we want food to be enjoyable. So at this point, we're just basically waiting on our chocolate to melt over here. So this shouldn't take too long. Once it gets going, it usually goes pretty quick. And as Carrie mentioned, we do have a lot of antioxidants in chocolate. So people often, I think chocolate's bad because we mix it with milk, which then starts adding a lot of calories, a lot of heart unhealthy fat. But if we stick to a dark chocolate, we're going to do just fine.
You need me to wash something for you?
I'm just rinsing this off so we can do the strawberries on it.
Okay.
All right. So I got some strawberries because this happens to be our seasonal fruit at the moment.
Yum.
But this could be blackberries, blueberries, peaches, apples, and you can really do anything. So this is just going to add a bit extra fiber for us. Just make it a little more fun. And there are in the area you pick places. So if you like berries but you don't like the price in the grocery store, there are you pick places around the area that you can go and pick your own berries. I like to do that just because it's cheaper because you're not paying for the labor that goes to the grocery store or the middleman. You're supporting your farmer directly, which is part of that whole food connects us thing is supporting our local community and our local farmers if we can. And you can make your strawberries whatever size you want. I hear my water boiling, so my chocolate should be melting really quickly here.
Give you a hand. Look at this little makeshift double boiler.
Yeah, the first time I read that I needed a double boiler for chocolate, I was like, what am I going to do? I don't own a double boiler.
Yeah.
Most people don't, unless you're doing a lot of chocolate. So I went hunting around. I looked up what a double boiler does for starters because I honestly had no idea. And I was like, okay, well, I just need something that I can use to heat water in and put this over it and let it basically steam. So I went hunting around the house till I found a pan and a bowl that would work and called it good.
We've actually had decent success breaking the chocolate up in pretty small chunks and microwaving it.
Yeah, you could do
and
that
just
too.
Continuing to keep an eye on it.
Yep.
I think that's kind of the trick is, no more than 30 seconds to start, kind of stir it up, and then 10, keep,
Yep.
no more than 10 to 30 second intervals after that, just to make sure, because it can burn that way.
Yep.
And
you can use your stove too. Like mine at home has a melt option on one of the burners.
What?
I know. I was like, oh, that's cool. So
your stove was telling you to make chocolate.
It is. It's like, hey, melt stuff. So yeah. So I actually have the ability to melt things if I need to.
Wow.
So I technically wouldn't have to use doing the little double boiler thing. I
Am
still
I
do
doing this
just,
right?
yeah, yep, literally it just needs to start melting.
Okay. These are big, tough chunks of chocolate.
Yeah, I
I'm
probably could
learning.
have broken that up a little more
No,
for
that's
you.
all right.
So it does melt faster the smaller chunks you put it in. If you can find the 100% cocoa chocolate chips, that's actually the fastest way because they have the most surface area. That's hard to come by. And ironically, you might have noticed I have the Ghirardelli, which is usually considered a premium brand. This was the same price as the standard Baker's 100% baking chocolate.
Oh,
So I was like, well, I'm gonna go with the Ghirardelli then, since it's
Maybe.
the same exact price.
we're going to
So
treat ourselves for National Nutrition Month,
yeah,
but not really. Same price.
and that's the one of the things I always suggest too is shopping, shopping local, shopping
Mhm.
community. That can also help save money. If we're going to our local farmers, we're cutting out the middleman from the grocery store. Prices are probably going to be better.
Mhm.
You know where it's coming from, you know what they've done to it. You don't
Yeah.
have to worry about, well, did that sit on a truck for 3 days and now it's going to go bad in a day?
Yep.
You know exactly what you're getting. So that's a really great way to support our community as well
Yeah.
and be local and connect with the people around us.
It tastes better.
It
You get more
does.
nutrition from it. Stacy wasn't included in the email that I sent out earlier today, so which I forgot to include her in, but some of you that received it might remember, I put some of those questions in there for you to just consider, and one of them was, have you met one of your local farmers before? So, do you know where your food comes from?
Yeah.
And they are some of the best resources for what to do with this stuff. And they have a lot of ideas
Absolutely.
because they are tired of eating all the same things that they've grown again and again and again. So
Yeah.
they have a million different recommendations for how to eat it, which I think is really helpful.
It is. Yeah, funny story. Years ago, I belonged to something called a CSA, Community Supported
Mm,
Agriculture,
cool.
where you buy part of a farmer's shares and then you just go pick up whatever comes out of the field each week that's your part. And I'm in the little place picking mine up and I'm going down and I'm like, all right, I got to get, 5 of these and 3 of that. Well, I bypassed the okra because I do not like slimy okra. Well, the farmer's wife saw me do it. She's like, so you missed your okra. I'm like, I know, not really a fan. She's like, is it the slime? I was like, yes. So she tells me, go home, wash it up without cutting any part of it, leave it whole,
Okay.
coat it with a bit of oil, maybe throw some basil or some garlic on it, and roast it in the
Oh,
oven. There's no slime involved. It
no.
was great. I was like, I actually like okra this
I
way.
know.
So yeah,
Crazy.
they're a great
I love
resource.
that.
Like
Yeah.
had I not talked to the farmer's wife, I would have never known that you could do that with
All
okra
right.
and actually like it.
I think we're
So
good to go here. Let me
awesome.
just double check that. Yep.
Yep, that looks good. So we're just gonna go ahead and pour
Right.
that in.
Okay. Oh, so you poured in hot like that. Exciting.
Yeah.
Yep. I was
So
gonna say.
I'm gonna grab our little thingy here, and I'm gonna try not to get it too dirty.
Yeah. I
That's
don't know
the
if I
hard
can help
part.
you some way.
So I literally just grab the bowl, make sure
Okay.
you got something to hold it with, and I'm gonna steal your
Nice.
spoon. Yep. And you just kind of scrape it on in. So
It
this is,
just seems decadent and fancy already. I like it.
oh, I can smell that warm chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I openly admit I'm a chocoholic, so I do love my chocolate. Let's see if that's, you do have to be careful with glass because when it's hot, you cannot tell.
Mhm.
So I was gonna try to see if I can get a little more out of there, but I think we're
Okay.
good.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
can wash the other.
Okay. So we're gonna put this on the
There you
blender.
go. I was gonna say I can hold it for you if you want to try to scrape it.
We
Get
can.
every last drop.
Absolutely. We want it to be yummy, yummy, yummy.
Don't want to miss a 0.1 ounces of our chocolate. This is why it's helpful to cook with a friend.
It is. Sometimes you just need an extra hand involved in it. There you go.
Perfect.
Excellent.
Yum,
And then
yum.
literally all we're gonna do is blend this. That is the most cooking involved in this guy. That lid on there good.
I might have had it cranked up all the way.
Come on, guy. This lid does not want to come back off.
Mm,
Oh, there it goes.
got it. Okay.
I just got to get a bigger hand on it. All right, so we're going to get this stirred up a little bit. Sometimes when you're doing this, you do have to stir a little bit. Kind of get it all mixing together. All right.
I was going to get some little serving cups for it.
There we go. All right, there she goes. Just took it a minute to get going, but
Yeah.
it's going good now.
What's that?
And a lot of times I like my mousse a little thicker. So I will
Yeah.
actually stick this in the fridge typically and let it chill really good.
Okay.
Just that way it gets a little bit thicker texture. That's just my preference. If you want it to be a little bit thinner, you can go eat it right away. So
It was more like a pudding instead of a mousse or
yeah, it's
something,
a little,
maybe. Or...
yeah, more pudding-y texture. So, but it tastes good either way. So
Look at that. So really, now we've got, count all of our plant foods. We've got lentils, beans, asparagus, pepper,
lemons,
lemon.
fruit.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Strawberries, tofu, chocolate,
which is a plant. It is
cocoa.
technically.
So we're up to at least 8 already.
And strawberries. Did we count those?
I did count those. Yeah.
Yeah.
For one meal, which is quite good. So
yeah. All right. Looks like we're done.
Okay.
So we've got everything all cooked.
Excellent. So we've got a couple more minutes while Stacy plates some of this up and shows us our final products, and we taste test them. If anyone has any other questions for her, Stacy, I do have one.
All
if
right.
I wanted to come visit, how would I go about seeing you guys at Diabetes Education?
That's an excellent question. So a lot of insurances do require you to have a referral. So you can ask your primary doctor, say, hey, I would really love to go see those lovely folks over at the Diabetes Center, and I need a referral.
Okay.
And they should send it over. If you have Medicare or Medicaid, you definitely have coverage. Commercial insurances, there's sometimes coverage, sometimes not. Some people have really great coverage. I have had people come in that were like, oh, hey, you can see us every week if you want. But unfortunately, they don't tell us what your coverage looks like. So if you have a commercial insurance, I would recommend calling your insurance and just saying, hey, I'm interested in going to Diabetes Self-Management Education. That's the fancy name for what we do. And see what they say about coverage.
Okay.
And then get that referral sent over and you can come and hang out with us. We've got individual sessions. We usually start out with that. And then we usually do a group class if that's what your insurance prefers, or we can do more individuals depending.
The texture of this is amazing.
All right, there's one bowl of that one. Oh
my gosh, look how beautiful. And what other programs do you guys offer?
We also have a diabetes prevention program. So if you're in that pre-diabetes zone and you're like, nope, don't want to go there, you are, again, just ask for a referral. Our wonderful referral coordinator, Leah, will get you scheduled for the classes. You'll do a workshop so you can kind of come and at least get that. Cost is it's pretty effective. Even if you have to pay out of pocket, it's a year-long program. You only pay about $200. So it is a really great deal for that program. And it has a great success rate, which is awesome.
All right. So I'm going to, I already took a bite of this. This was so good.
There you go.
I couldn't help it.
We're going to add a little strawberry to make it fun.
Amazing.
All
I'm
right.
gonna zoom in for everyone. So maybe we'll, put
Yep.
that
There
there
we
and
go.
that there,
Get that out of the way.
and keep eating this bite that I have.
This is one of my
Okay,
favorite desserts to make.
there we go. Look at that, everyone. So thank you, Stacy,
You're
so
welcome.
much. Is there anything? It doesn't look like we have any other questions because you did such a lovely, good job explaining everything.
Thank you to all of you who have joined us this
Yeah,
afternoon.
we had a nice, good crowd. So I really appreciate it. And you guys need to go try this because it's great.
Just don't tell anybody it has tofu in it and they will love it.
No, because I've had tofu mousses before
Mhm.
and you can taste the tofu.
And this one you can't.
You cannot taste the tofu in this
Not
one.
at all.
It's amazing.
Yep.
So, from some of your friendly neighborhood dietitians, happy National Nutrition Month. Go enjoy a meal with someone. Go enjoy some more plant foods. Go say hello to your farmers and allow food to do the connecting not only to your community, to your healthcare system, and also to your body and your chronic diseases. So, thank you so much for joining us. And let us know if you make it and what you think about it. And come see Stacy and her team if you do
Absolutely.
have prediabetes or diabetes or anything like that. So thank you again so much.
Thank you for having me. It was
Yes,
fun.
good.